and they actually prefer to push books like the Constitution and the Bible out of our schools while injecting books like genderqueer and...
Who is they? Are they in the room with us right now? This is Ryan Walters, if you're unfamiliar. He's an Oklahoma superintendent, a disproportionate amount of power, and he is unglued from reality in every way. It's insane. It's like he's shooting for like a spot on Fox News. Now, he finally made his way to Fox News. Obviously, this is one of his interviews on Fox News. But I think he's aiming for the very top because some of the stuff he says is just crazy. He called, you know what? I'm not going to say it. I'll show you. I'll show you what he said. That's so unglued from reality. We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm not going to show you yet. Let's just take this sequentially. Let's watch the whole interview on this Fox thing that he did here. Late May 2023, he goes on Fox. I think it's a Stuart Varney piece, I believe. Maybe. And he talked to him, the host, whoever it happened to be, and gave him a piece of his mind. Listen to this.
And they actually prefer to push books like the Constitution and the Bible out of our schools.
He's talking about teachers' unions, by the way. It says so on the little chyron on the bottom. Oklahoma State Superintendent takes on teachers' unions. Teachers' unions want to take the Constitution out of schools. Really?
While injecting books like genderqueer and...
No, I've never heard of those books before. I don't know what they are. Nobody is pushing those down anybody's throats. I have no clue what you're even talking about. This guy is fighting against an invisible boogeyman. Somebody who is out to get him, who's fictitious, who's been fictitious the entire time. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video. But it'll say whatever it takes to seemingly get that spot on Fox News. Absolutely insane.
It's outrageous. They are Marxists at their core.
They're Marxists. The teachers' unions are Marxists.
Their core. That is their fundamental principles in which that guides them. And we are tired of them intimidating teachers, fighting school choice, and fighting parents. And we are absolutely going to fight back here.
Teachers' unions are fighting teachers? Really? Which ones? Give me names. I want to know. Tell me who, because I think you're making this up. Do you know, according to U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics annual report on union membership, the median weekly earnings of full-time and salary workers who were union members in 2022 were $1,216 compared to $1,029 for non-union workers. That's nearly $10,000 more per year. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, union workers make on average $10,000 a year more than non-union workers. Now, why would somebody at the very top who's in control of who gets paid what have a problem with unions? That's weird, isn't it? What a weird thing to see. Super strange. Unions raise the overall pay in the industry for everybody, whether you're in a union or not. Industry pay goes up because unions fight for better wages, and these other companies, these other jobs in the industry, whether they have a union or not, have to raise their wages too, to compete with the other companies, to bring employees in. Unions are the best possible thing that we can possibly get in this system that we have right now for workers. Unions fight for workers' rights, always have, and this guy is going after teachers' unions. Teachers' unions only exist to help people. That is it, to raise people's wages, to negotiate on their behalf. It's called collective bargaining, and it was a massive breakthrough when we were allowed to start collective bargaining in the United States. Poverty wages went down dramatically. Wage slavery went down dramatically. You know, they used to have, back in the day in West Virginia and other places, they have these coal mines, right? And these coal mines would have whole towns around them. Everybody in the town worked at this coal mine, and the coal mine paid the employees in their own little currencies. And you had to go to the coal miner's store to spend it. You get your wages in coal mines money, and you spend it at their store. And it was almost nothing, for the record. It was not enough to live off of, really. And then unions came into the picture, and they got to fight and battle and argue and do everything they could to get workers a fair shake. If somebody is speaking out against unions, it is simply going to hurt regular workers in every industry. If you don't have more than $2 million in the bank, there is no reason you should ever speak out against unions, ever. And even then, you should try to speak out in favor of unions, even if you have over $2 million in your bank account, to help your fellow man. Really, to help people around you. How could you possibly want to make things worse for the people around you the way that Ryan Walters apparently does as Oklahoma superintendent, making bizarre claims about teachers' unions? This isn't even the strangest one. Listen to what he has to say about teachers' unions. This is from May 1st, 2023. I believe, this isn't clip-chimped. This is, I could be mistaken, I believe that he posted this to his own Twitter account. This is Ryan Walters posting this because he was proud of it.
But, the teachers' union, I don't negotiate with the teachers' union. They're a terrorist organization that is
Members.
He called the teachers' union a terrorist organization, really. That's why he got his slot on Fox, right? Because they'll bring on anybody who will speak out against unions so vehemently. This dude is a worker just like everybody else. Why is he doing this? Why is he hurting workers this way? It is just disgusting. I mean, it's fascinating to listen to because he's more of like a political figure than like an administrator. I guess he does administration too, as a superintendent. But he is very much a political figure. Listen to what he has to say. This is like a political event that's taking place. Just keep listening to how this went.
That has continued to spread misinformation around the state and lie about our administration. So
the teachers union is spreading misinformation. Right, totally, absolutely, 100%. So naturally, this bombastic, ridiculous nonsense speaking out against unions, that caught the eye of Moms for Liberty. Now, this guy decided to show up at Moms for Liberty and give a speech there, too. He's making the circuit right now. If you don't know who Moms for Liberty is, let's talk about it. They are an actual, real terrorist group. This is a real terrorist organization, an actual one, that invited him to speak. He's actually a terrorist, apparently. I mean, I guess it depends on your definition. If a terrorist organization invites you to speak at their event because they like what you believe in so much, are you a terrorist? I'm comfortable saying yes, right? Let's talk about Moms for Liberty and what they believe, who they are, why they're considered a terrorist organization. This is an NPR article about Moms for Liberty. This was written June 7th, 2023, so not long before this came out. This is late June 2023, just to give you a little context for like when things happen. More than 2 years into a conservative push against teaching about Black history, literature, and gender identity in public schools, the Southern Poverty Law Center has concluded that a dozen so-called parental rights groups behind the movement are extremists. So they were named an extremist group by the SPLC. Now, obviously, the Southern Poverty Law Center, of course, is going to be lambasted and hated and demonized because they name groups as extremists and terrorists. The civil rights organization particularly focuses on the largest of these, the nonprofit Moms for Liberty, in its annual Year in Hate and Extremism report for 2022, saying that it advances an anti-student inclusion agenda. So basically, Moms for Liberty is setting out to advance an agenda that prevents kids from being included and feel welcome in anything at all. If you're not white Christian, if you're not a white Christian, you don't belong in this environment. Basically what they're trying to foster. They really are seeking to this is a quote, they really are seeking to undermine public education holistically and to divide communities, said Rachel Carroll Rivas, Deputy Director for Research, Reporting, and Analysis at the SPLC. So Moms for Liberty isn't just like another group that's absolutely nuts. They are setting out to divide communities and undermine public education. according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Carol Rivas said her organization has received numerous calls from parents and educators who are concerned about the sudden appearance and tactics of Moms for Liberty activists in their schools. Moms for Liberty, founded in early 2021 by conservative women in Florida, has quickly expanded its presence across the country. It has landed national media attention for its efforts, sometimes successful, to fight COVID safety measures in schools, ban books, limit discussion about race and LGBTQ identities, and populate school boards with conservatives. Two of its co-founders, Tina Desovich and Tiffany Justice, I think is how it's said, provided NPR with a written statement in lieu of an interview to respond to the SPLC designation. I'm just going to give you a little idea of what it said. Basically, the letter from the founders to NPR basically said, 2/3 of Americans think the public education system is on the wrong track today. This is why our organization is devoted to empowering parents to be a part of their child's public school education, blah, blah, blah. It just goes on like that. A little bit further down, the NPR article says, the SPLC compares the group to pro-segregationist parent groups. Groups that wanted to keep black kids and white kids separate. They're using the same tactics. They're effectively the same in just about every way, in the way that they operate and the things that they believe and the whole nine. The SPLC report compares Moms for Liberty and similar organizations of today to pro-segregationist parent groups that flourished in the wake of the 1954 Supreme Court decision in Brown v. Board of Education. That decision forced schools across the U.S. to integrate, but it also gave fire to a movement to undermine public education. I didn't realize that was in 1954. I thought it was later than that. Interesting. The report names as examples the Mothers League of Central High School and the Cheerleaders of New Orleans, which were established to resist inclusiveness at schools during that earlier era. Isn't that interesting? Mothers League of Central High School was a pro-segregationist group, and now we have Moms for Liberty. Sounds kind of similar, right? And they have similar goals, too. That was hateful then, and it's hateful now, said Shannon Hiller, executive director of the Bridging Divides Initiative, BDI, at Princeton University. BDI, I love it. BDI, that's good. Hiller said BDI, a nonpartisan research organization that tracks political violence, has had Moms for Liberty on its radar. What we've been watching really closely around this particular group are times when they show up with other groups that have explicitly advocated or committed intimidations and violence, Hiller said. There are cases at school boards in North Carolina, for example, where Moms for Liberty showed up together with Proud Boys and were part of intimidating the school board. Carol Rivas echoed this observation. The Proud Boys are a terrorist organization also. I don't know that the U.S. designates them as such, but nearly every other Western country does. Canada does, at the very least. A bunch of European countries would designate them as a terrorist organization. Their organization is quite concerning for how it harms communities, but also because of the associations with other hard-right groups that they've really had since their inception, she said. Yeah, absolutely. So the point is, Moms for Liberty is a terrorist organization. They're setting out to intimidate people at school boards, like with violence. So, of course, they would have this guy, Ryan Walters, this Oklahoma superintendent, on to talk at their event, right? These people are psychotic, all of them. Listen to what he had to say at this event here.
We're here in Philadelphia, and you know what? You know who else was called a terrorist group, an extremist group? Those founding fathers.
Were they called terrorists, the founding fathers? I don't remember that. That does not sound true to me at all. They were technically considered traitors to the crown, but to call them terrorists? No, that doesn't sound right at all. Actually, the founding fathers had something called a Continental Congress. America was largely operating independently of England already by the time the Revolutionary War happened. The Continental Congress was working with the Americans to kind of get the goals in line and communicate with King George and all that. And they sent out something called the Olive Branch Accord, I think is what it was called. Maybe it was an Olive Branch Petition. Yeah, I'm sorry. Olive Branch Petition is the name of it. Anyways, so they send out the Olive Branch Petition, and it was basically a petition to King George requesting politely that he please see the error of his general's ways. They don't blame him for it. They know that he's not at fault. They just would like it if he would take a look at what his, armies and what his people are doing, basically, to America. That's all they wanted. And when the American people found out King George didn't even read the Olive Branch petition, that he had some other guy reject it, that's when they sent the Declaration of Independence that basically said, "Dear King George, we understand you did not read the Olive Branch petition, so go f*** yourself." That was a traitorous act or treasonous act. Founding fathers were not terrorists. They were technically traitors, I suppose, to the crown, in a technical sense. Okay, so he's trying to make himself out to be like a founding father, basically, right?
An extremist group. Those founding fathers.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah, listen to her on the side. She is his temporary hype man over here. That's right. She's like the Marjorie Taylor Greene of Donald Trump's State of the Unions.
That's right.
you know, that's who you are today. You are the most patriotic, pro-America group in the country.
No, they're not. They're not patriotic at all. They're nationalistic. There's a difference. I'm patriotic. I believe in this country. What they have is not patriotism, it's psychosis.
Right now. And let me tell you, the Biden administration...
So you can tell that he's used to speaking to crowds because people who don't speak to crowds don't really know how to handle applause if it's their first one. If you notice what he's doing here, he leans into the applause. He doesn't try to fight it. He lets the applause go and finds natural gestures that he can make while the applause happens. He's a very good public speaker, very skilled, natural public speaker who appears to have been doing it for a long time. I mean, that analysis is kind of tangential to the point, but it should tell you something about him. Like, he wants to be a public figure, right? Is that obvious to everybody else, too?
And let me tell you, the Biden administration, radical teachers unions, the fake news media will have all kind of headlines.
So he's kind of imitating Donald Trump here, of course.
All kind of headlines about you. But you know what? If they really want to do their job, the headline would be, "This is the most important conference to happen in Philadelphia since 1776.
Oh boy, that's a tall claim. The most important conference to happen in Philadelphia since 1776. You sure about that? You sure you want to lean into that? That's a tall claim. For what it's worth, the Declaration of Independence was sent in 1776. The Constitution was signed into law in 1787, I think, or 1789. Okay, wow, I was wrong, apparently. Written in 1787, ratified in 1788, and in operation since 1789. There you go. There's your answer. So I was kind of right, I suppose. You sure you want to stand on this hill and tell us that Moms for Liberty is the most important conference to happen in Philadelphia since 1776? Okay. Not a choice I'd make, but all right. Oh, I guess that's the end of it. God, dude, this dude is something else. All of these people are unglued from reality. Seriously, they're nuts. These people are crazy, and they're straight up terrorists. And in all seriousness, they are. They use intimidation and fear tactics to prevent people from doing things that they have their full right to do. They're using terror as a tool, as a political tool. That is the definition of terrorism. And now I guess they got the official designation from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Of course, you know, anybody who has been designated a terrorist group by the SPLC doesn't like the SPLC. That's a given, but they're most definitely a terrorist group, without a doubt. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. This is fascinating to me.